In this video, we're going to look at ClickUp 2.0 Board View, new features that can optimize your workflow, and the big one, changing what board columns are split up by. Let's get into it. If you're not familiar with board views, or Kanban views as they're often called, it's a visual layout of all of your tasks split up into columns. Each column typically represents one stage in your workflow, so you can immediately look at it, see everything, see quite a few details for each task, and see where each task is in your overall flow. Okay, so in ClickUp 2.0, there's been a few changes. The first one is there's been some improvements to the custom statuses. So if we go into custom statuses on this list, we can see that I've actually changed the name of the open and closed statuses. Previously, this wasn't possible. So I've now got idea and published because this is a content board. I can also recolor this initial one. So if I wanted my ideas to be pink, I can do that. The final stage must always stay green. Now, in some workflows, you might not always have the same outcome. So here, my ideas will always eventually get published. But if you're, say, in a sales workflow, sometimes you won't always close the deal. A lead might get lost. Or, for example, if you were doing a support workflow, it might be that sometimes people have solved their question on their own and no longer need you to solve it. So in that case, what we can do is we can create an extra status. We'll say withdrawn for the support case, and we can add that as an extra done status. So now if you move cards into this column, they will be considered done and show in the overall percentages and reports as being complete, but they won't be in the same column as your complete ones. And that way you can see how many are each and start to get or keep better tracking. Okay, I'm just going to delete this, go out of here. The big thing, the big change, which is really awesome, is grouping. So over here we can see group by. Now by default we're grouping by status. What that means is that all items of one status are showing up in one column. And that's normal if you're looking at your workflow. But maybe you want to understand a bit more visually how many things are assigned to different people. What we can do is we can change it to assigned to. Now in this one, it's only me, so you can see that everything is under me. But if, say, you had 10 people, you could see which ones are under each of them. You can then further sort by priority or due date or whatever else you want to get a really good understanding of where each person's work is at. Next one, we can go to priority, and this one's fantastic. If you have, for example, a day where things just need to get done and it's just starting to get overwhelming, if you put it into priority, we can just start to work through only the urgent tasks, and we can really see a division of what needs to be done now and what can be done later. That's very similar to the due date grouping by. So instead of urgent, high, if perhaps we're not using priorities, you may not have that ClickUp enabled, you can instead do it by what is overdue, what needs to be done today, tomorrow, and further down the week. The last one is by tags. Now that's going to allow you to create really customized organization systems. You can see here I've got tags for the different topics. So I can see how are all of my content ideas divided up across the different topics. We also now have slightly more options with our subtasks. So I'm going to go back to the status grouping for now. Now, by default, subtasks are compacted. That means they won't show up at all, but you will see subtask icons as here that says how many subtasks there are. We can change that to have them completely separate. That means they'll be their own card, they'll be filtered separately, and they'll be even in a separate column. So the subtasks for this are actually over here because they're only ideas at this stage. I haven't started shooting them yet. Alternatively, you can put them as expand all, which means that no matter what status the subtasks are, they'll appear under their parent in the column of their parent status. So because my parent item is in shooting, all of my subtasks are also below that in shooting, even though actually none of those ones are shooting yet. Okay, and lastly, we have this little cog icon, which has view settings. Some of these are very interesting. So I'm going to change actually my subtitles back to separate tasks so we can see this first one easily. So I've got show subtask parent names on. All that means is the name of subtasks will appear above them. You can turn that off. I like to keep it on just to keep track of things. Now, if we did have subtasks as expanded, we could show closed subtasks, and that'll just pop up ones that have been completed over here. If the subtasks are separate, then that setting won't matter so much because the finished subtasks will already show in the finished column, regardless of how we set that. We can show assignees. which is simply just who's assigned to each one. I have it off because they're all assigned to me, but if you have multiple people, that can be really good to have on and really help. Okay, I love this one, collapse empty columns. Sometimes you just don't have items in certain columns and they just take up space and means that you're constantly side scrolling. We can collapse those, and so each time we move something into them, they'll expand, and when it gets moved back out, they'll collapse again. I love this, I'm leaving it on. The second last one is cover images. So if you don't like having images making your cards too big, they can be turned off. But if you do want to have a really graphical interface, you can turn them on. To attach a cover image, it pulls it from the most recently attached file. So all you have to do is drag and drop into this pane here, and your image will be attached. And if that setting is on, it'll pull it as a cover image. The last one, and this is really cool, is that you can now display as many custom fields as you want on the cards. So if you want to see more information without having to click into each individual card, you can go into View Settings, Custom Fields, and choose which of your custom fields you'd like to view. Right now I have Progress on. If I turn that off, you'll see it'll disappear. Let's perhaps create a few extra custom fields. So I'll go into the custom fields for this list. Let's go New Custom Field. What should we do? Let's have a date. Okay. So let's say when I got this idea. This is a bit of a ridiculous custom field. I'm going to delete it later, but it'll give you the idea. And then we'll go View Settings, Custom Fields, turn that on. Now you see that nothing has actually popped up right now. I believe that's because I haven't actually set any information in this. So if I go into one of my tasks and say when I got this idea was yesterday. Okay. And now we see it pop up. For ones that don't have information, they won't pop up, which is great. Love that. Means it's not crowding out space more than is necessary. That's it for ClickUp 2.0 board view today. If you would like some more customized work or help with design and training for your team, I will include a consulting link in the description below. If you click on there, you can see some more details about that. If you have more questions, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to see what else you'd like to see, anything that's still confusing or I haven't explained well here, and what you'd like the next video to be on. If this video is helpful, click like and subscribe, and you'll see the videos I'm putting out in the future. All right, I'll see you in the next video.